Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so today we're tackling a real challenge, one that pretty much every parent and history enthusiast knows all too well. We are looking for a family day out that is deeply educational, truly respects the massive weight of history, but, and here's the kicker, is actually wildly entertaining for all ages. I know, it sounds like a completely impossible balance, right? Well, today we're exploring a place that has literally cracked the code.
Let's just dive right into it. How exactly do you teach kids about the monumental, heavy history of D-Day without triggering that dreaded museum fatigue? You know the drill. Usually military history means quietly shuffling past endless glass cabinets, squinting at tiny placards while the kids just drag their feet. We all want them to understand the sacrifices of the Second World War, but let's be real here. Do not touch signs don't exactly spark a child's imagination.
But the Castletown D Day Museum, they have a totally brilliant hook. Instead of walking into some quiet, stuffy lobby, you are immediately greeted by an actual battle-scarred American Sherman tank sitting right there at the front doors. It's literally guarding the entrance. Before you've even bought a ticket, the museum is pulling you in. It sets the tone right off the bat that this is definitely not going to be a passive stroll. You are stepping straight into 1944.
Section 1. Portland's Vital D-Day Role.
So to really appreciate this museum, we kind of have to look at the very ground it's built on. It's an authentic recreation of a busy wartime dockyard located right exactly where the history happened. Just wrap your head around the sheer scale of the operation for a second. 517,816. That is the staggering number of American troops who passed through the Weymouth and Portland harbors between June 1944 and May 1945. Over 500,000. For so many of these young guys, the coastal hedgerows and docks of Dorset were literally their final peaceful memories before heading straight into the inferno of combat.
And alongside those 500,000 troops, over 144,000 vehicles embarked from these very harbors. The Castletown Pier, which is literally just 50 yards from where the museum stands today, was the specific departure point for units like the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, famously known as the Big Red One, and the 29th Infantry Division. They set off from this exact spot, heading for the heavily defended Omaha Beach, where they would end up facing some of the absolute worst ordeals of D-Day.
What's really wild is that remnants of this massive operation are actually still hiding in plain sight. If you look out just offshore from the Castletown slipway today, you'll spot these monumental 7,000-ton concrete blocks just floating out there in the water. These are two of the original Phoenix caissons. They were used to create the famous Mulberry Harbors, which were these incredible temporary, portable, artificial harbors that they towed all the way across the English Channel to unload cargo onto the French beaches. Out of 212 that were floated, these two still remain right here at Portland.
Section 2. History you can handle.
Okay, so you're standing on sacred historical ground, right? How does the museum actually convey that to a modern family? Well, they have completely tossed the Do Not Touch rulebook out the window. Visitors are actively encouraged to get hands-on. I mean it. You can pick up real, decommissioned weapons and feel the actual weight of the gear these soldiers carried. And let me tell you, anyone who tries picking it up quickly realizes it was incredibly heavy. You can aim a Bofors 40mm anti-aircraft gun, try on authentic military uniforms, climb right onto a 1940 BSA motorcycle, and even step inside a recreated German D-Day bunker looking out over the sand. It is just incredibly tactile. Kids and adults alike can physically feel the history.
And you know, the results really speak for themselves. There's this one visitor review that I think hits the nail on the head. It says, "The kids loved being able to handle so much stuff and actually touch a bit of our history." Because of this fully immersive approach, the museum boasts an unbeatable 4.8 out of 5 rating from over 900 reviews on Google. It totally bridges the gap between generations. It allows grandparents to educate their grandkids in a way that feels like pure play, but still imparts a really profound respect for what happened.
Now, as if the ground floor wasn't engaging enough, you absolutely have to make sure to look up. Suspended right there from the ceiling above the exhibition floor is a jaw-dropping, full-size replica of a Mark IX Spitfire ML-407. And this isn't just any random plane either. This represents the specific aircraft that claimed the very first enemy aircraft shot down on D-Day right over Omaha Beach. It's such an incredible visual anchor for the whole space.
Section 3. Inside the Sherman tank.
Let's circle back to the museum's absolute showstopper for a minute, that Sherman tank. Because this isn't just some display prop. This is a real veteran tank with a deeply compelling backstory.
It carries the livery of the U.S. Army 743rd Tank Battalion, which is the very same battalion whose tanks left from this exact port back in 1944. It was damaged in action in northern France and then painstakingly restored by a military group in Normandy before finally making its way back here to Dorset.
And here is exactly how you get to experience it today. You don't just stand behind a rope and look at it. You actually climb inside the fully repainted interior. Step 1, you sit right down in the newly fitted seats. Step 2, you grab the tillers. Step 3, you can literally look through the working periscope. And Step 4, as you're sitting there, you are completely surrounded by period radio chatter and immersive sound effects. You are literally stepping right into the boots of a 1944 tank crew. How cool is that?
Section 4. The Real Human Stories.
Now, it is wildly fun, yes, but you might be wondering, how do they connect the fun of climbing on a tank to the profound human cost of D-Day? Well, they do it through something I like to call the name tag journey. Here's how it works. When you buy your ticket, you pick a real soldier's name right out of a tin. You hold on to that name as you experience all the exhibits, handle the heavy gear, and climb up on the vehicles. You start to build a personal connection. Then, at the very end of your visit, you walk up to a massive memorial board. You search for your soldier's name to discover their fate. Did they survive? Were they injured? Or were they killed in action? It anchors the entire visit in empathy, teaching children about sacrifice in an incredibly personal and unforgettable way.
And once you finish your visit inside, the history actually continues right outside. Just a short walk away in Victoria Park is this truly beautiful memorial which was unveiled in August 1945 by the American ambassador, John D. Winnett. It's dedicated to the Americans of V Corps who passed through Portland Harbor en route to the fierce fighting on Omaha Beach. Let me tell you, after reading the personal stories inside the museum, standing in front of this stone carries a massive, massive emotional weight. Which brings us to our final thought. The Castletown D-Day Center isn't just preserving rusty artifacts, it's actively preserving empathy for a generation that gave absolutely everything. So I'll leave you with this. When you walk the exact same docks as the Big Red One, and you feel the true weight of the history they carried, what will your family remember? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly, highly recommend you go touch a piece of history for yourselves.